Welcome back to TYT Sports. The stories today are simply sublime. This is why I love reporting on sports in general, because sometimes it's going to make for a great movie on one hand, but FIFA just has so many different layers of corruption that involves so many officials that it's almost mind-blowing when you read into the details. So without teasing it and not following through, we're going to jump into our first story, which is FIFA releases the full corruption report. Now, there's so many different layers to touch on, but the main focus of this story, seeing as we probably will run out of time after we just touch on English officials, David Cameron and Prince William are under investigation for basically being caught up in a corruption scandal to try and sway votes for England. The long-awaited FIFA report has disclosed the lengths to which England's football bosses went to court. FIFA executives, many of them now discredited, as they sought to secure votes for England's 2018 bid. At one point, officials discussed the possibility of arranging a meeting with the Queen for one FIFA representative whose vote could have helped England. It goes on. The FIFA report reveals how Mr. Cameron asked the South Korean delegation to back England's bid, only to be told that England would have to agree to reciprocate by pledging support for South Korea's bid to host the 2022 tournament. Such vote-swapping deal, the report concluded, would have been in violation of the anti-collusion rules. No shit. The long-awaited report has went into details as to what David Cameron was trying to do. So you guys know, if you've somewhat heard I'm not going to get too political on this with David Cameron. I'm not a fan of his, never have been. The guy basically called a snap judgment election, which plunged us into Brexit, blah, 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 blah. I'm not a big fan of his. So the vote swapping deal, he basically was promising South Korea that he would vote for them in return if they voted for England. But also they were promising to bestow an honorary knighthood and arrange an audience with the Queen for one South American official. That was to try and get the vote for him. They also, England officials apparently arranged work at Aston Villa and Tottenham Hotspur for an adopted son of one of the officials. So it's like all these I feel like in my head they put all these offers out, right? Who wants a knighthood? All right, who wants their son to work?
To be fair, I wanted a knighthood. I remember asking you 2 years ago, I'm an American, can I get knighted? And you were like, no, Jason, you can't get knighted. Obviously you lied.
And then this one's even more just bizarre to me, right? It's like, so you remember Jack Warner, basically the scumbag that was involved up with many of the corruption scandal that came across our news last year when we reported it. I mean, the FBI helped with the investigation going forward. So basically, one of the promises was that his hometown would be twinned with an English village. According to the report, the FA offered Burton upon Trent, the Staffordshire home of its National Football Centre, as a potential twin town to that of which is close to Jack Warner. So,
par for the course.
It is par for the course. Now, is it any surprise that politicians are intermingled with the corruption that's involved in a major organization, NGO, that has over basically a non-profit, not NGO, but a non-profit, sorry,
non-profit,
that has over 3 billion stored away just in case. So it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. If England were to host the 2018 World Cup, of course that would have boosted David Cameron's appeal. Of course, this is during a time where he was probably losing a lot of his public backing and was doing several things to try and get this vote in his favor. Offering the Queen as part of a bargaining tool, it's just so hilarious how it's not surprising because people still look at the monarch as this thing that people want to admire and see. So meeting the Queen would be a way to sway votes. There's just so many different layers to the lows that people will stoop in order to get their agenda pushed.
So it's called the Garcia report because he was going to come out and release all of it. And then FIFA got wind of this report eventually coming out, and they said, no, we're going to release it ourselves. But they released a watered down 42-page of what was the 400-page list of document of it. And well, it left out like all of the parts of corruption and made FIFA look really good. Of course they would do that. So then the full report gets released, and it's 389 pages. And I actually read a lot to do with the 2022 bid in Qatar. And come on, man, it's like slave labor is almost legal there. So they're basically they're paying awful, awful wages. People are actually dying in Qatar building these stadiums. And it's not gonna be finished in time. And we already know what's gonna happen. We talk about the FIFA corruption all the time. And we continue to talk about it because one of the worst things you can do when it comes to this is say, yeah, FIFA's corrupt, let's just stop making any kind of news about it. No, always put a bad name associated with FIFA. They're bad people. But one of the things that somebody put it in the BBC article was, no, they replaced the bad people, and now we have the good people. So now we're just doing like collusion corruption, not like bags of cash corruption. And by the way, bags of cash corruption, way more interesting. I'm telling you, by 2026, Sam Allardyce will be running FIFA. That's a guarantee.
It's such a possibility. It's a new lick of paint. That's all they have.
They're huffing paint. That's what they do.
The foundation is still rotten to the core. And by the way, even when I'm still reading, I'm picking up even more details across. Like, it turns out that Warner, who was obviously one of the main corrupt officials, it was his adopted son. But the son was actually the real son of his banker. So like, there's even corruption in amongst the family ties. Like, all right, I'll adopt your son so that I can get him a job at Tottenham and Aston Villa so that he can pay you back some money because you've probably done some dodgy dealings for me being my banker.
Imagine if that's the reason Tottenham finished second.
The banker was
we don't know who Jack Warner's adopted kid is. We don't even know what his last name is.
Just stashing Gareth Bale's transfer fee just in his pocket and giving it to Jack Warner. It's no surprise. Like, so it's like, I love how obvious some of the points are in here. It's like later down the report, it's like, however, the report also identified the conduct by England 2018 that may not have met the standards set out by the FIFA Code of Ethics.
They have a code of ethics.
You need to say that out loud in order for us to understand. No, Jason's absolutely right. The layers in which FIFA are corrupt shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't cover it, and it doesn't mean that we shouldn't shine light on every single death that happens in Qatar is on them. Because there's no doubt been collusion in order to get that competition into an area that it never should have been. But even in the areas where you expect the World Cup to go to, like the built up areas of the world that can maintain and be stable hosting a World Cup, which is very extensive. We saw what happened with Brazil. They're still trying to bend the rules in order to get the competition there. They're still, in a way, it's just this playing field. Everyone's hands are dirty. Everyone needs to try and do something like offering knighthoods to try and get a vote in favor. By the way,
you don't think I'm about to learn how to get a knighthood.
But the thing is, it's so, like, in my opinion, like, knighthoods, of course, are often considered, I mean, one of my favorite actors and comedians of all time, Sir Billy Connolly, just got knighted. So like, it's a very pristine prize. It's often offered. Some people get it, people don't believe they are. I mean, remember Beckham's reports came out where he was complaining that he didn't get a knighthood?
Yeah, we did that whole, we did the knighthood thing. But so Patrick Stewart's knighted?
Yeah, there's a bunch. It's Sean Connery, Andy Murray recently. So yeah, it's supposed to be one of the most pristine awards that you can get offered by the Queen. And it holds a certain level of, a certain title that is often, you can't be bought out. So even that was too far, and England officials recognizing the difficulty of arranging an honorary knighthood. You know what they did instead? They instead discussing creating a FA Disability Cup that could be named after this official.
I love
like,
this
how
so
scummy are you, man? Like a cup that you're probably gonna put forward as this organization that maybe gives back to those that have disabilities, maybe helps a non-profit get some sort of funding to help a real case. And it's because some guy you want to sway a vote, that's why you put forward that cup.
If I'm being honest, man, I'm taking all of these things. Oh God, I'd love to be a FIFA official. Oh, come watch the Cavaliers play, front row, courtside.
Jason Rubin
if you give us, I'll give you a vote. Are you kidding? I'll give you 20 votes. Oh, a cup name after? Sure. You want to vote? You get a vote. I kind of promised one to the US though. Like, what could you give me? A knighthood? Your vote. Totally. All yours.